Why do we need to progress? Any activity can become boring and monotonous, even kiteboarding. But at the same time, it seems one lifetime is just not enough to master all the disciplines and skill in the world of our amazing sport. Today's episode will address some points that you will need in order to not plateau in your journey as a kiter. To help me with today's video, I've recruited Laurie from the Our Kite Life YouTube channel.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm excited to be a part of this video, and honestly, I wish I had these checks in mind a little earlier. I think I would have progressed so much faster had I just asked myself these simple questions a couple years ago. Hopefully, we can help you to progress faster and more efficiently as an intermediate kiteboarder.
So, should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Are you building a strong foundation? Building a strong foundation is key. At this point, we're assuming that you can easily ride upwind and jump. If not, check out the beginner episode of Are You Progressing as a Beginner Kiter? Now, before you get any further, there are certain foundational skills that you need to master.
It can be tempting to go for the coolest or trendiest trick you see on YouTube or Instagram, but you need to walk before you run.
One of the most obvious examples of this is load and pop, which is necessary to take your jumps to the next level, as well as perform tricks like back rolls, front rolls, jumps with board grabs, or board offs. If you try to learn any of these tricks without mastering load and pop first, it will be much more challenging and it could slow your overall progression.
The same goes for down looping. Get comfortable with basic down loops on simple transitions, as well as down looping when you land a jump. Once you've mastered these, then you can begin to progress to kite loops and maybe eventually mega loops.
If you're into kite surfing or hydrofoiling, then you want to have a plan for transitions. Do you want to learn how to jibe from heel to toe side first, or perform a foot switch before your jibe transition? My personal preference for hydrofoiling was to learn to foot switch before the transition, which allowed me to work on surfboard and surface foil foot switches before learning to ride toe side on a foil. There were a number of reasons that I took this approach, but more importantly, whichever direction that you do take, choose your foundational approach and see it through. It all boils down to progressing in the proper order.
Next up, you'll want to select the proper location and conditions for the kiting style that you prefer. When it comes to progression, it's not just about you, but also the location where you kite.
It's going to be difficult to surf big waves on an inland lake, boost high in winds under 15 knots, or learn freestyle in choppier wavy conditions. Rather than battle inappropriate advanced conditions, seek out the proper conditions for the style that you want to learn. A good comparison is snowboarding. You wouldn't expect to become a great freestyle snowboarder by starting out at the park. No, you go to the bunny slope, where the conditions are optimal for learning. And then you progress to green, and then to blue, and so on.
But what are those optimal conditions? Well, if you're looking to improve your freestyle, look for flat water with steady wind in the upper teens or higher.
If you're looking to surf, start with strapless riding on flat water, then progress to 15 to 25 in an area with clean 2 to 3 foot waves.
For hydrofoiling, you'll want to start in flat water with sideshore wind in the low to upper teens and water that's deeper than the length of your mast, so you don't have to worry about hitting the bottom.
If you're a vacation kiter or a weekend warrior, you put yourself at a disadvantage for progression. Session frequency will make a big difference when it comes to your progression as an intermediate kiter.
I don't know about you, Kyle, but I'm lucky if I get out a few times per week, be it on the weekend, after work, or even before work. That's nothing though compared to pro riders who kite daily and travel to the most ideal locations for kiting. That's just one of the reasons why they're amazing kiters and we're just okay.
Motor learning requires repetition, and this is how we develop muscle memory. When a movement is repeated over time, a long-term muscle memory is created for that task, eventually allowing it to be performed with little to no conscious effort at all.
In my opinion, 6 30-minute sessions with a shared kite is better than 1 3-hour solo session in a day. Why? Because you can trade off very easily, you can take breaks without having to land and then relaunch the kite, and you just avoid getting burnt out. Also, if you're buddying with someone of equal or greater skills than you, there's an element of friendly competition, plus you can help each other spot mistakes and encourage each other to progress. Even if you're not sharing a kite, sharing goals with a fellow kiter can go a long way to reaching those goals faster, especially if you hold each other accountable. You realize this isn't always possible, but if you can manage to make it happen, I recommend giving it a shot.
Having the proper gear for the discipline that you want to practice makes a huge difference. This applies not just for your kite, but for all of your equipment.
We've seen it time and time again. Kiters failing to progress or progressing much slower than they possibly could because they're on the wrong gear. For instance, trying to learn big air on a wave kite or trying to learn to foil on a race wing.
Many preferences exist throughout your gear range, and they very well could carry directly into improved performance, such as, are you having a hard time holding down your kite or riding on your toe side on a hydrofoil? Well, have you tried a seat harness or added a rope spreader? Are transitions on a foil seeming impossible? Well, what type of wing are you using and how is its lift and its pitch control? Is your upwind riding performance on a twin tip not optimal? Does your kite sit deep in the wind window? Or is its board volume not sufficient for the current conditions? These are just examples, and many other variables exist that you want to become familiar with in their existence to optimize your gear for improved performance.
You also can't forget to maintain your gear. You'll want to regularly tune your bar and lines, tighten the screws on your board, and maintain your foil board by applying grease to the screws regularly and sanding the wings of any nicks. And don't forget the bridles on your foil kite.
If you are not crashing, you are not progressing. This is something that I know all too well. And it's one of the reasons that I'm such a mediocre twin tip rider. I have found great benefit in thousands of crashes in the last year and a half while learning to hydrofoil. All of this while my progression as a non-crashing twin tipper has been stagnant for around a decade.
There are people that go years without dropping their kite, and that's not necessarily a good thing. That may be a sign that they've plateaued. Don't be afraid to push yourself, to bail, and to swim. It may be frustrating in the moment, but trust us, it's a good sign that you're progressing.
So there you have it, our 6 checks to help you progress as an intermediate kiteboarder. Maybe you check every box, or maybe there are 1 or 2 that you have overlooked.
If you keep these checks in mind, hopefully you can avoid plateauing and continue to progress as a kiteboarder.
Thank you for the help today, Laurie. And if you haven't already subscribed to Our Kite Life or to the OK Kiteboarder, we would appreciate your support. Also, please comment below on your progression experiences as an intermediate kiteboarder. If you have any kite gear needs, reach out to Green Hat Kiteboarding. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you soon out on the water.